You see, this whole concept of retirement, if you think about it, is changing right in front of our eyes. And the biggest driver of change is a group of people called the baby boomers, right? Look around the room, there's a bunch of you in here. The baby boomers have been this massive demographic force that have changed social and economic patterns ever since the day they were born. Do you guys know when the baby boom started in Canada? It was before you're born. 1946 was the official start of the baby boom, and for the next 20 years, there was a massive amount of babies being born. And I guarantee you, if you could turn the clock back and invest $1 in a little company called Gerber back then, you may not be sitting here today. In other words, the baby boomers had tremendous influence over what happened in our culture, in our society, and in economics. Think about this. When the baby boomers started to grow up from being little babies and they started to go into school, do you guys remember what happened to the school system? Do you guys, some of you may relate to this. Do you remember every school had something called a portable attached to it? You guys remember that? Multiple portables. Why was that? Because they couldn't build schools fast enough to accommodate this huge influx of kids going into the school system. And now if you look around the city of Edmonton, you don't see these portables around, maybe once in a while. But really, you think they're talking about school closures and changing the function of all these big schools. How about when you guys all got out of school, right? When you get out of school and you all got jobs and you all started to make money. That's fun, isn't it? Making money. So when you got jobs and you started to make money, what were the first two things you bought? A house and a car, okay? Do you guys remember what happened to real estate back in the 1970s, early 80s? What happened to real estate prices? Do you remember? Skyrocketing up, right? Why is that? Because all the baby boomers were buying houses at the exact same time. It's very simple. And then the baby boomers, they were all buying things to put in their houses, right? And think about what happened to prices of goods and commodities. That was what we call the inflation era. Do you guys remember this? Mortgages, 15, 16, 17, 21% interest rates. You don't want to remember those times, do you? But think about your GICs. You could go to the bank and invest in a GIC and get 10%, 12%, 15% guaranteed. No risk. Right? Oh, the good old days, eh? Right? The reason it was such inflationary times is because there was a lot of people now entering the workforce, making lots of money. There's a lot of money flowing in the economy. And that was caused inflation. Now the earliest baby boomer has just turned 65. And now for the next 20 years, guess what we're going to see? A massive number of people turn 65 and who are at the forefront of thinking about retirement and what it means to them. And how are you going to make retirement the best years of your life? Another big change, the working retiree. Okay? How many of you know people who retired but went back to work in some way, shape, or form? Okay? The numbers are staggering. The statistics are amazing. That working in retirement has not only become acceptable, it's actually become normal. Look around when you go shopping at places. Look who's working there, right? Lots of retirees are going back to work. Some because they want to, some because they have to. But working in retirement is, for some people, a simple fix to prevent boredom from setting in. And understand this, the greatest risk that you all have, one day when you retire, the retirement you do not want, I guarantee you, is that you will become bored. Because boredom leads to depression. Depression leads to taking little pills, and then you ultimately die grumpy. And I suspect that none of you aspire to take that path in retirement, do you? Instead, what do you want? You want the best years of your life, right? Isn't that what you want? You want retirement to be the best years of your life. Think about how interest rates have changed this whole concept of retirement planning. The best time to retire was back in 1981. Do you guys know why? Because you could literally retire in 1981, you could walk over to the bank, you could take all the money that you saved, and you could plunk it into a good old-fashioned GIC. You could live off 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15% interest, no risk. Your capital would be safe and 100% guaranteed. Wouldn't that be nice? How many of you could retire easier today if interest rates were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15%? You wouldn't have to worry about mutual funds and the stock market and all the ups and downs that we see in our portfolio as a result of going into things that aren't inherently guaranteed. And the world of mutual funds and stocks are not necessarily bad, but they've created a new set of problems, haven't they? the more money you have in mutual funds, the more money you have in stocks, the less control and predictability you have over the one thing we're talking about today, which is we all want to retire. How many of you know people who delayed retirement because of what happened to the stock market in the last 10 years? How many of you know people who retired but then had to go back to work because their portfolio dropped 20%, right? That wouldn't be designated as the best years of your life, would it? So part of retirement planning now is how do you deal with these low interest rates? The bottom line is this: retirement today is busier than we've ever seen before. Why? Because the retiree today is younger, more active, energetic, capable of truly living the best years of their lives. And because of this, what's really interesting is that there's less focus on money than we've ever seen